Clifford Olson, the Beast of British Columbia, Canada's first true boogeyman, is a Canadian serial killer who murdered at least 11 children and teenagers between the ages of 9 and 18 in the early 1980s. He is a certified psychopath who scored 38 out of 40 on the psychopathy checklist, according to the Supermax in Saint Anne des Plaines, Quebec. Let's dig into this gas bag story, but first, a quick look at the killers I've covered so far. Hi there, my name's Misha, and my channel is called All Things True Crime. If you enjoy this video, please take a second to subscribe to my channel so you won't miss any new content. That's All Things True Crime. So, the story of Clifford Olson starts in January 1940. He is a New Year's baby and the first child born to his parents, Clifford and Leona. He has 3 younger siblings, 2 brothers and a sister, neither of whom become criminals. Just saying. Just this dirtbag. He is Clifford Olson II, or Jr., as I will refer to him. He's born and raised in a small home in Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada. His father is a milk delivery man, one of the last to drive a horse-drawn cart. Interesting. His father also works in construction and as an apartment building manager during his lifetime. His mother is a housekeeper. After World War II, the family moves to Richmond, an up-and-coming suburb. The story is they move into one of the war homes. Now, I can't seem to verify it, but this would indicate his father serves in the Canadian Armed Forces, or at least in a war-related industry. Quick note, during and after World War II, over 45,000 homes are built all across Canada by the Wartime Housing Corporation, also known as the Central Mortgage and Housing Corporation. These homes are constructed for returning soldiers and those civilians serving in war-related industry, like making ammunition, for example. It seems like Junior here is always a problem, kind of just a bad seed. Nature versus nurture, right? I talk about that some. So maybe in this case, nature wins out. We shall see. His father is quoted as saying Junior is always getting into fights and getting beaten up. He vows to his father one day to become a boxer. He soon learns to box and then makes his rounds to all the schoolhouse bullies and beats them all up one by one, like just checking them off his list. His father says he has a chip on his shoulder, and that's why he wanted to get revenge and beat up the bullies. I say false. Wanting to beat up those who bully you doesn't mean you have an issue. That's just normal life experience. So by 10 years old, he is skipping classes, and then by the end of 8th grade, he quits school entirely, and for all intents and purposes, begins his life of crime. It's at this point the boy becomes a gas bag. Often described as a loner, a loser, and a failure, he is jailed for the first time at the age of 17 on July 19, 1957. Over the next 24 years, he is convicted of over 100 crimes. Things like theft, armed robbery, rape, boogery. No, that's Canada's way of saying sodomy. Obstructing justice, possession of stolen property, forgery, possession of firearms, fraud, false pretenses. Difference between fraud and false pretenses is that fraud is a civil offense, whereas false pretense is a criminal offense. Parole violations, impaired driving, breaking and entering, escape from lawful custody 7 times. He escapes from jail 7 times. Gross indecency, and of course, finally, first-degree murder. Like I said, he's a grade A dirtbag. For example, at one point, this gas bag is serving 3.5 years in prison for breaking and entering when he pretends to be sick. And once he's transported to the local hospital, He outsmarts 3 guards and escapes custody. This event escalates to a chase involving dozens of police, and Junior is almost caught when he slips through their hands yet again. Slimy, slimy. Story goes that he spends the night hiding under the Queensboro Bridge in New Westminster. He's on the lam for a week when he's finally nabbed in Blaine, Washington. So he crossed the border. Very interesting. He's caught harassing 2 teenagers with a gun in a wooded area right near the border, about a quarter mile east of the Pacific Highway crossing. How'd he get a gun? Maybe one of the guards. The Border Patrol agents call for assistance. Again, he's super slimy and almost eludes them as agents from 4 different forces hunt him. He's finally caught, though. Sneaky little 25-year-old. The chief border inspector, a man by the name of A.D. Brandon, said of the chase, quote, "He must have laid in the leaves 3 hours with 50 people crisscrossing right through there." What a slime ball. A police dog is who sniffed him out. Second time, a dog gets him. He likes to hide in the bushes, or apparently in the leaves. So 5 different times in the 1970s, Junior is freed from jail under mandatory supervision. And each and every time, he commits another crime and lands back in jail. The courts should have learned, if you ask me, but no one's asking me. So, okay, he's released in January 1980. A few months later, he meets a woman and they start a romantic relationship. This is where he graduates from gas bag and dirt bag to trash bag and scumbag. I'm just kidding. They're all synonymous. November 17th, 1980, Junior attacks and murders 12-year-old Christine Weller. She's from Surrey, British Columbia. Her body isn't discovered until Christmas Day. Man, that would suck. Like for her parents, learning on Christmas Day. Medical examiner reports she was strangled with a belt and then repeatedly stabbed. 5 months later, in April 1981, Junior and his girlfriend have a son together. That same month, he murders 13-year-old Colleen Daignault. She disappears with no trace, and her body isn't found for 5 months. Next up is 16-year-old Darren Johnsrud. He is abducted and murdered. Authorities find his body less than 2 weeks later. Junior's body count is now 3. In May, he and his girlfriend get married. 3 days after the ceremony, he murders again. This time, 16-year-old Sandra Wolfsteiner. In June, he murders 13-year-old Ada Court. This is when he ramps it up. 6 murders follow in very quick succession, all in July 1981. 9-year-old Simon Partington is abducted, raped, and strangled on July 2nd. 14-year-old Judy Kozma is raped and strangled a week later. Her body isn't discovered for around 2 weeks. Junior dumps her near Weaver Lake. 15-year-old Raymond King is abducted on July 23rd, then raped and bludgeoned to death. 18-year-old Sigrun Arndt, a German tourist, is raped and beaten to death 2 days later. 15-year-old Terry Carson, raped and strangled. And finally, 17-year-old Louis Chartrand, murdered by Junior on July 30th. So, how did he do it? Junior is a rat / police informant. He's always rolling over on other criminals. Because of this, he is considered somewhat of an asset by law enforcement and not at all a suspect. This helps him elude the police for a long time, allowing him to continue his murder spree. He has an MO to lure these kids. Oh, and first, he's always hopped up on booze and pills, just laying the foundation there. So, he meets these kids in video parlors, which I think is like a version of a movie theater, but in other places where kids hang out. And he advertises for fake jobs on a bulletin board at the church he and his wife attend. He hands out business cards that identify him as a construction contractor. Telling the victims it's an interview, he convinces them to come along to the construction site to take a look around. During the drive, he congratulates them on their job and offers them a celebratory drink that is spiked with chloral hydrate, which is a drug that knocks you out cold. At this point, he engages in weird, sadistic experiments with the victims. One time, He drives a 3-inch spike into a kid's head. He used a screwdriver and a hammer um, into the crown. Another he injects with an air embolism. He refers to them as his science experiments and fantasizes about national fame under the moniker Silver Hammer Man. I don't know. I guess it's a reference to a Beatles song. He then dumps the bodies in various locations, usually cranberry fields, bogs, abandoned quarries, and canyons. He often selects victims, always at random, but intentionally from a large area of the lower mainland, so the lack of coordination among the different regional police departments works to his advantage. It seems he knows a lot about police procedures, and he acts accordingly. Scumbag. So this case is really a big catalyst to the RCMP for reviewing and modernizing their procedures. Where does it all fall apart for this guy, this dirtbag? Well, during some of his murder spree, he is under suspicion and being followed. While under this police surveillance, he manages to murder another 4 kids. This is because he drives between jurisdictions to commit the murders. As I mentioned a minute ago, he is smart about police procedures and how the jurisdictions work, and he bounces between them on purpose. The police tailing him say he is not easy to follow. He knows he's being tailed and does things like randomly stop in the middle of the road, make last-minute sudden U-turns, drive down one-way alleys, and continually change rental cars to throw them off his scent. He's totally playing the cops. At one point, he drives over 20,000 kilometers in 3 months using 14 different rental cars. There's those stupid kilometers again. For us regular folk, he drove over 12,000 miles in 3 months using 14 different rental cars. That's insane. Another time, he drives over 5,500 kilometers, nearly 3,500 miles in just 2 weeks. It's crazy. I asked a moment ago, where does it all fall apart for the sicko? Well, one day in August, he takes the ferry over to Vancouver Island. He burglarizes 2 Victoria residences and then travels north to Nanaimo, an old coal mining town. Here, he stops and offers a ride to 2 young women who were hitchhiking. Man, am I glad hitchhiking is completely illegal in some U.S. states and has restrictions in the rest. It's just not safe. In Canada, several highways have restrictions, particularly in British Columbia and some highways in Ontario. Those Europeans, though, it's completely legal to hitchhike, and in some cases they encourage you to do so. Bunch of weirdos. So where was I? He picks these 2 women up, and apparently he's wasted or high or tired or something else or all of it together because he kind of starts falling apart. He weaves into oncoming traffic. Sometimes he hits the shoulder. This happens at the bottom of Hydro Hill, right before the Long Beach turnoff. So he turns off onto a logging road, a gravel road, and the car slows. 2 RCMP cars pull up and block him in. He's further ahead, though, so they walk towards his car, hiding in the woods alongside the road. They approach and see the 3 of them, Junior and the 2 women, passing around a bottle. He begins to harass one of the women, so the Royal Canadian Mounted Police make their move. They aren't as sneaky as they think, though. Junior spots them and races back to his car. He throws the car into reverse, smashes the gas pedal. Doesn't make it through the roadblock, though, and is arrested. He claims he only stopped to pee. He is charged with impaired driving, his car is impounded, and he's thrown in jail. Here's the kicker. They search his rental car and find a little green address book, and in it, the name of the 14-year-old Judy Kozma, one of his victims. Gotcha now, you bastard. So by the time he's caught, only 3 bodies have been discovered and identified. Police are uncertain how many he's actually murdered. Somehow, he manages to use this lack of knowledge to his favor. By August 25th, Junior has been charged with Judy Kozma's murder. With that charge, he provides a full confession and reaches what ends up being a very controversial deal with authorities. He agrees to confess to all 11 murders, show the RCMP where all the bodies are, and turn over the victim's belongings that he's kept as trophies in exchange for 10,000 Canadian dollars per victim to be placed in a trust fund for his wife and their infant son, Clifford Olson III. His wife receives 100,000 Canadian dollars, the 11th body being considered a freebie. In January 1982, Junior pleads guilty to all 11 counts of murder and is sentenced to serve 11 concurrent life sentences in Canada's super maximum security facility called the Regional Reception Center. Inside this facility is an even more secure unit for gas bags like Junior. It's called the Special Handling Unit. This place is located in Saint-Anne-des-Plaines, Quebec, and it houses many of Canada's most dangerous criminals. At his sentencing, the judge, Justice Harry Mackay, said no punishment a civilized court could impose was adequate. He went on to say, quote, "You should never be granted parole for the remainder of your days. It would be foolhardy to let you at large," end quote. Supposedly, when Junior was being driven to prison after the sentencing, he told one of his guards that if he ever regained his freedom, quote, "I'd take up where I left off." Oh, yikes. So in 1997, he applies for parole under Canada's Faint Hope Clause, which allows prisoners a parole hearing after serving 15 years. His parole is denied, thank God. In 2006, he is denied parole again. This time, he uses the law that allows prisoners to apply after 25 years. Under the country's law, he can then apply every 2 years. He is denied for the final time in 2010. In September 2011, it is reported that Junior has terminal cancer and is being transferred to a hospital in Laval, Quebec. He dies there on September 30th, 2011, at the age of 71. While in prison, he claims his murder count is between 30 and 40, but can never substantiate his claims and leads the police on a series of embarrassing wild goose chases that lead nowhere. In prison, he also sent greeting cards to his victims' parents. In these cards, he would complain about his prison conditions and then outline in great detail their child's suffering at his hands. He also sent pornographic letters to members of parliament. I mentioned in the beginning that he scored 38 out of 40 on that psychopathy exam. So it's called the Hare Checklist. It's a clinical scale that rates psychopaths. The doctor who performed it on him said it was the highest score he had ever seen out of the hundreds of murderers, psychopaths, and sexual offenders he had studied. He said, "I found his descriptions to be quite nauseating compared to other cases I've been involved in." He went on to say he's very pleased with the way he is right now. Yikes. His wife's lawyer said this about Junior, quote, "We were like moths around a flame. If there's an afterlife, I hope Olson's confined to the 7th level of hell. He could pick up every vibe, every tick, and feed it back to you, mirror you exactly." The press has this image of Olson as disheveled with beastly eyes, a monster. He was a personable, charming guy. When he walked into my office, it was the cops that looked bad, end quote. I can't help but hope he was terrified of death and that his cancer was super painful. If none of that is true and he just peacefully fell asleep, then that's okay, because as I've said about other serial killers, what was waiting for him on the other side is far worse than the flesh-ravaging disease of cancer. Scary thought. Well, that's all for this episode of Serial Killers. If you enjoyed this video, please take a quick second to subscribe to my channel, All Things True Crime, so you won't miss my next video. On the next episode of Serial Killers, we're going to learn all about Yvonne Keller, also called the Pillow Killer, a French serial killer who murdered at least 23 people in France, Switzerland, and Germany between 1989 and 2006. Kicker is, he confessed to murdering nearly 150. If corroborated, this would make him the most prolific French serial killer of the 20th century. His famous quote, "I just wanted to be loved." Yikes. Until next time, stay safe.